Hello and welcome. This is the Zen community of Oregon, making the teachings of the Buddha Dharma accessible to support your practice. New episodes air every week.
So before I get to my main topic for tonight, I wanted to share a little spell I'm writing. Some of you have heard my spell on unknowing. We did that here before. This one is called A Practitioner's Spell for Transmuting Worry. And it's just me thinking about the state of the union, the state of affairs. The Practitioner's Spell for Transmuting Worry. O this world, a dance of natural forces, a collective mass of tendencies, the child of past intentions, virtuous and not. O this world, a playground, a hell, beautiful, ferocious, and unpredictable, an unchanging spiritual training ground, a dream. It never changes, the wholeness of pleasure and pain. It can be relied on, the wholeness of coming together and falling apart. It never fails, the inner dissonance from separating from what intimately is. Instead of worrying future poverty, may I work to be deep steeped in kindness. Instead of worrying future pain, may I be still and rest in naked immediate fact. Instead of worrying future loneliness, may I embody the universal friend. Instead of worrying about inaction, may I undertake love's responses clearly before my eyes. O this world, co-arising with where I look from, impossible compassion with 1,000 different faces, always eluding my it's this or it's that. This sounds a little loud tonight. So that's my spell I'm working on. Stay tuned. So I wanted to begin talking about the precepts. This is the second talk on that. And just briefest review is, I talked a little bit about the danger of thinking about these as purely moral injunctions coming from on high. And they're more trustworthy sketch of how to live out love or how wisdom functions. And another way to think about it before I go more specifically into some of the precepts is that we have this interdependent recipe for a Buddhist spiritual life. So we have the precepts, which you could say is character work, or examining ourselves and our actions and the impact in the light of wisdom, in the light of love. Then we have meditation, right? And then we have wisdom. Now, one way to think about this is you be good, you meditate a bunch, and you get wisdom. It could work like that for somebody. But another way to think about it is these are totally interdependent. In a way, these are the same thing. Huineng, one of the great ancestors of our tradition, said, meditation and wisdom, so therefore meditation and compassion, are like a lamp and its light. So for the people who want to refine their meditation, called to that dimension of the spiritual life, our character dissonances, the places that we're getting caught by self-centeredness, by negativity, they need to be worked on in the domain of character because they'll show up in meditation. Right? So the interdependence here is the more you clean up your outer life, the more you align that with integrity, the easier it is to sit down and get settled. There's an interdependence between our functioning in the world, its reverberations, and what happens when we sit down on the cushion. Doesn't mean that if you sit down and you have a disturbed mind that you have a character issue. No, that means you're normal. But sometimes, and especially at certain levels, it's hard to let go into a deeper thing because there's some precept work to do. Right? So there's an interdependence of the precepts, sometimes called sila. That's a Pali word. And meditation. And then, naturally, I think all of us, we hear about someone who was apparently a deep meditator who acted like a dick, objectively verifiable, and we go, what is that for? What good was all that meditation? Right? And so we can see that there is some, we know that meditation and showing up as a kind-hearted, reliable person are really two sides of the same coin. We're not talking about being perfect here, but we feel that there's some dissonance when those don't match, right? And the last thing to say about this is sometimes the best way to have peace of mind is to forget ourselves and just show up in service for others. That will be the deepest meditation. You just are caught up, positively caught up in being helpful, moment by moment, responding. And that is a form of meditation. Right? So there's an interdependence to these, and you can't ever talk about something from all sides at once, which I find distasteful. But sort of how it goes. So there's an overarching set of precepts called the Three Pure Precepts. I didn't actually get to them last week, but I talked about getting to them. Go back as far as the Dhammapada, one of the early Buddhist teachings, and there's various translations. We'll go with the one that says, cease from harm, do good for others. Okay. Why are they called the pure precepts? And put aside that could be a translation issue. What is pure about these? What is it that can't be sullied about this kind of map for living your life? Stop harming, do good for others. Now, I know that when I first came to this tradition, I thought I had all this down. Right. I didn't think I caused harm, or only sometimes I caused harm. So one of the things that we discover as we get more sensitive is more and more subtle ways in which we are a link in a harmful action. And we are a vector for something that could have not happened that happened, that led somebody away from the wholeness of this moment. So in working with these, and it's really a form of self-examination, it's a lot of fun. You start by saying, where am I actually a direct link in causing harm? And I'm going to cease that. It's a good reflection. Where on a daily basis might I actually be letting meanness slip out or harm through neglect? Some people can kind of scan, check in with their heart, and they can feel like they're clean on this one for now. And current situation with work and life and all that it's not happening. And some people will go, oh yeah. Right? And self is included in this too, to cease from harming the self. It's not just about our social life. So on a straightforward level, this is about to stop saying or not saying the thing. Right? And we're increasing our sensitivity. We're increasing our sensitivity to what precedes harmful action, what it's like to undertake it, and the reverberations of taking the action. Because a wild thing about human beings is it's like amnesia is built into us. How many times have we done something and go, I'm never doing that again, and then next week, faithful as can be. It's very strange. My current theory is that to really stop actions that are harmful, we need to be present through the whole cycle. What precedes us doing it, who we are when we do it, how we feel after. We want mindfulness to stay lit through that whole process. And we're listening and we're feeling our actions' impact. And this process, I think, is part of why sometimes there's a time in practice where people feel like they're a worse person than they were before. Because you're actually becoming more sensitive. You're actually paying attention to the impact you have on others more. Your mindfulness is actually increasing, so you're noticing cause and effect. Right? Or you're more present in your own body, so things that you could have rationalized and not felt, you no longer can do that little escape maneuver. Right? Where if your conscience shows up physically, you used to be able to dodge it. You'll no longer be able to dodge it, right? Because you're instituting a more abiding physical presence. Yeah? Meditation does tend to increase a kind of a refinement of behavior. There's some kind of, I don't know, I'd make a flow chart if I could for you, like embodiment and conscience, those are related, and then observation of life's feedback, and that flows back into embodiment and consciousness and so forth. At some point in my practice, I realized I had to be more quiet. Because what kept popping out of my mouth was judgments. I didn't know I used to do that, but suddenly I was in this place called Great Vow Monastery, and people didn't judge people freely and out loud. I don't know what they did in their minds. And in letting my judgments in the particular coarseness I had in my speech at that time, I was a 23-year-old. The coarseness I had in my speech at that time, it would sort of fall on this kind but dead air in a way. I'm like, you just said that. Everybody I knew used curse words, every fourth word, where I grew up. And then I came to this place and nobody cussed. And all of a sudden I was like, what the fuck? Right? And I had to kind of understand, where do those speech patterns come from? What state of mind are they springing from? Right. So, with ceasing harm, and again, I have a theory that generally we are harmed when we do harm. We are harmed when we do harm, or we are in harm's energy at the moment of harm. Right? No, I don't want to lay it on too thick. Right? Sometimes we do something unskillful, or we have kind of lapses in discipline around this or that, but the mind that harmful actions spring from generally feels grimy. It feels remorsey if we pay attention. Right? It's got a heaviness, it's got an offness, it's got a flavor to it, generally. And the Dharma teachings are raising a red flag about karma. Right? And the flag about karma that we just don't get as folk wisdom, I don't think. Actually, my grandma and many grandmas do say, if you keep making that face, it might get stuck like that. That's deep Dharma. Because if we keep making a particular state of mind over and over and over, it might become a feature of our character. And then it gets harder to relinquish as we go on. Yeah? Suppose that rebirth is the way the universe works, and that a baby comes in and is full of grumpy. Okay, where did that come from? Well, maybe it was practice and made a feature for a lifetime or more. It's going to be harder to undo. So Dharma raises a red flag about karma, saying that the more we do something, the more it tends to stabilize and become stable way of being. All the while being empty and impermanent and permeable to awareness, yes, but better to not have to even undo it. So cease from harm is so much compassion for oneself, right? Because the more we act a particular way, the more it becomes a stable-ish feature of our character, and then it becomes part of our culture's character. You know how it's weird or it's like kitschy to watch like a 50s television show now? All those states of mind look quaint. Like, oh, how simple people were. There's features of our cultural character that we're just so close to them, we don't even see them anymore. I mentioned it's cool to be jaded last week. Or it's taken as intelligence to be jaded. Yeah. So, to cease from harm. And these are the three pure precepts. They're not delineating the particular ways that practitioners of the past have seen human tendency towards harm. We'll get to that. But in a way, this is... I love that this is open because it invites us to really think about it rather than someone just telling us what's harmful and then we can comply or rebel. We can live with this question, like what is harmful? You know, and it's it seems that one of the burdens of being conscious is that you have to be conscious. So the next of the pure precepts is do good. I suggest thinking about symbiosis with this. Okay. Symbiosis is different than a pleaser pattern, that we do what is felt to be good or right because we're afraid of being abandoned, unloved, because our self-worth pivots on it. Symbiosis is different than a pattern of seeking reward for doing good, although karma is something to pay attention to. Symbiosis is, and this is not absolute truth, but it's a guidepost, that the good is mutually beneficial as you act it and after. It's mutually beneficial. That's how we might be able to sniff out the good. You've probably heard some of those, about those studies about people who live long and healthy and who flourish and are happy. And one of the things that they have is they have a spiritual community that they contribute to. So they have a place to do good, and they feel good doing that good. That's symbiosis. Now, to do good might be good for different things, and not all of them at the same time. I might be doing something good for my integrity, but my sense of it, is it pleasurable? Not so much. But it's still good. I might be doing good for something might feed my mood. It might feed my energy. Good might be good for countering my character weaknesses. That might be the good. Like it was very good for me to spend many years in a situation where I continually had to pay attention to the needs of the group rather than my own desires. I'm a desireful, instinctively selfish being. And so I was in this situation where it was always like, oh, what's right for the group? Many of you have experienced this in different family dynamics, work situations. So the good was countering that weakness in myself. That's part of what made it good. And to think about what's good for our connections, what's good for our meditation. A traditional dharmic way to view the good is that which leads self and other towards awakening. One of the early translations of the Bodhisattva precepts around alcohol, to not drink alcohol, which is actually something that was, the eyes were set, the sights were set on alcohol as a big problem going throughout Buddhist history. Right? And some of you know the lapses of integrity that can happen when you're drunk. It's something to keep your eye on. The traditional Dharma way is that which, I was saying, the precept was something like, do not sell the wares of delusion. Do not peddle delusion. That's what they had instead of, don't use intoxicants. And we're, I think, all in our own place in seeing what is delusion and what is not, and what actually is beneficial to people and what is not. That evolves, that changes. It is contextual. Right? So we shouldn't put too tight a parameter around it. But some questions could be in discerning what is the good to do, what acts are in service of non-reactivity. Yeah? What feeds that in others and in ourselves. Right? This is as my little poem was pointing at before, this is an axiom of Dharma that reactivity is ultimately not helpful. Responsiveness is helpful. What's the difference? What's good are acts that promote contentment. What practices serve seeing selflessness? What situations serve a reduction in selfishness? How do we plant beauty? In what ways can we nurture wise hope? There's hopium, and there's wise hope. Hopium. Do good. Yeah, don't be good, do good. Just to consider this. Just to consider this and see its effect on your life. If it actually doesn't have a positive effect, then forget about it. But if you actually take it on and it has a positive effect, continue it. That's really the spirit here. The last of the Three Pure Precepts is to do good for others. Do good for others. I think the point of this is to bring a living question into our different contexts. Did I talk about my new way of thinking about couples? I work with some couples in my counseling practice. I've been telling couples that it's one thing to just passively support your partner, and it's a whole nother thing to actually be on their team. What does it mean to be on the team of others? That extra thing that we might not do. We can go, yeah, I'm not complaining that they do X, Y, Z. But what is the next step? A lot of times, Dharma will challenge our behavior. It will break up a particular nest that we've made. It's always asking us to be flexible. So to creatively bring this kind of question into the situations of your life is how you live into this precept. What would be uplifting? What would be generous? What would be positively disruptive? What would be supportive? What would be non-obstructive action with these folks? Not in some abstract way. How can we be on people's team? The interesting thing is with these couples, when I propose this question, the other person, the other half of the couple knows exactly what they would like the other person to do. They know the way that they could be on their team. Sometimes we're withholding that. We sense it. It's subconscious, but it's there. What do we have to be sensitive to know what to support and water in others? And how to reflect back what's not worth watering. This is really delicate. Right? Some traditions tell people to really just mind their own business and do their practice until they're quite free of their egocentric tendencies, and then try to be helpful. But until then, just stay on your cushion. No, stay right there, just go. Back to retreat with you. And some say you only really learn what this means, and we only find the joy and the meaning of it by trying, right? Like by showing up, by not having a passive stance. A receptive stance towards situations sometimes, yes, but not passive. Now, I try to keep myself pregnant with bodhicitta. Okay? I can't. I'm bad at it, but I try. So did I tell you my coffee prayer? I try to find times to make prayers. I make my coffee. It's a pour over. The beans, maybe Proud Mary. Lately I've been ordering from a place in Montreal. That's not the topic of this talk, but it's a very good pour over. But I do a prayer and I say, may all beings drink the elixir of awakening. Right? Twice a day I do that. 3 times a day if it's really a bad day. I encourage inoculating yourself with bodhicitta in a prayerful way. Yeah, inoculate's a pretty good word, I think. Because you want it to fruit out of your body. You want there to be a mycelial network in your heart, body, and mind of bodhicitta. You want it to get into your dreams, to seep into you. That's why, for example, at the monastery, there's all these kind of chants over and over and over about this spirit. You want to get inoculated with the spirit of, I want to be creatively helpful to this sad world. Because this is one of the things this world is sad. And one of the things it is like a web that some of us can't help but keep getting ensnared in. We're not moving freely. We're not enjoying this. A lot of you are already kind of far along in being free just by being here. Just by making the time in your life to show up and be here, you're already sort of not in that web. But that's not the case of many, many people. Right? So we want to see that and be spring-loaded with the intention. And that's all you have to do is be spring-loaded with the intention and then get out of the way. So in our sensitivities to this evolve as we discover what it is for us to be wisely free. For example of me and my speech, I had to change my speech patterns because I realized the energy I was putting off, even though I was funnier then, it wasn't worth it. I had a buddy of mine who was a monk. At one point he said, "Jogen, you used to be so much funnier." I had to go through not being funny to regain my whatever humor I have. I had to take my work seriously. So what I had said last Wednesday to preface the talk is sometimes we feel that we're not doing what we should be doing, and that is some sense of inadequacy that is more a psychological issue. And sometimes we feel we're not doing what we should be doing, and it's spot on. It's our own wisdom kind of reflecting to us, you could come more into alignment. Not permanently, because it's always a moving target, but you could come more into alignment. And so we're studying the precepts, and they're a guidepost. And these are the 3 pure precepts. Cease from harm, do good for others. It's a pretty good recipe.
Thank you for listening to the Zen Community of Oregon podcast, and thank you for your practice. New episodes air every week. Please consider making a donation at zendust.org. Your support supports us.